What happens after death? It's one of those questions people have asked across cultures and throughout history. And like many people, I've thought about it too, not from a place of fear, but from curiosity. What I want to share here isn't a final answer. It's simply one way of understanding the question, based on what science currently tells us, and on what feels meaningful to me. If we look at the body, science gives us a surprisingly clear picture. Everything that makes us up, our bodies, our cells, is made of atoms. And those atoms are incredibly old. They were formed in stars billions of years ago, long before Earth existed. Right now, those atoms are arranged in a very specific way that allows us to live, to think, and to experience the world. But that arrangement isn't permanent. When life ends, the atoms don't disappear. They simply stop being arranged in the way that made you. Over time, they return to the environment, the soil, the air, other living things. In a very real sense, nothing is lost. The building blocks continue, just in new forms. There's something quietly comforting about that. But for most of us, the deeper question isn't about atoms. It's about consciousness. That sense of being you, your thoughts, your memories, your awareness. From what science can currently tell us, consciousness appears to depend on the brain, on the incredibly complex activity of billions of neurons working together. When the brain is active, experience is present. When it stops functioning completely and irreversibly, that experience seems to end. Based on current scientific understanding, there is no evidence that personal consciousness continues after that point. At the same time, there's still a lot we don't fully understand. Consciousness itself remains one of the deepest mysteries in science. So while the evidence points in a clear direction, there's also room for humility in how we talk about it. For me, this perspective changes how I think about life. If this is the only life we know we have, then it becomes incredibly valuable. Not because it lasts forever, but because it doesn't. It shifts the focus away from what might happen later and toward what we do now. Time with people we care about feels more important. Kindness matters more. Curiosity matters more. Even small things, a conversation, a quiet walk, a moment of laughter, they take on more weight, not in a heavy way, but in a real way. I also think it changes how we see death itself. Instead of something mysterious and frightening, it becomes something more natural. The closing of a process that began long before we were born. Not something to rush toward, and not something to ignore, but something to understand as part of the same reality that gave rise to life in the first place. That doesn't remove the sadness of loss, but it can soften the fear. So what happens after death? From a scientific point of view, the matter that makes up our bodies continues. Energy changes form. And the conscious experience that feels like us appears to come to an end. That's one way of understanding it. And for me, it leads to a simple conclusion. This life, however brief it may be, is something rare and remarkable. And because of that, it's worth paying attention to. It's worth living fully, treating others well, making the most of the time we have. Not because we're promised anything beyond it, but because this right here is already something extraordinary.